Pat Davis and I just want to talk about and follow up on some objections and just different ways to handle our business. This type of business is not easy. It's not done overnight. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but we just want to stick together as a team and give ourselves all the help we can and help each other overcome any sort of objection or any sort of hurdle that's stopping us from being as successful as we're called to be in this business. Pat, why don't you start off and just kind of explain the difference between an objection and maybe a complaint?
Yeah, and there's another too, and that's called a condition. So if someone tells you, I can't afford it, sometimes that's just an objection and it's legitimate in the sense that there's some other reason that they don't want to talk about this or whatever. But sometimes it's what we call a stall. Now, we're taught to say those words, I can't afford it, when we're uncomfortable. It's not really true, but it's often the go-to answer for people. So they don't know enough to be able to go forward with the transaction or whatever, but they just use that because money's the easy answer sometimes. But that's what we call a complaint. They would say, well, that's a lot of money for those patches. That's a complaint, and you don't handle that like a real objection. You simply agree with them and you say something to the effect of, you know what, you're right. It does seem like a lot of money. When you compare that with what it costs for our health, surgery, med supplements, things like that, not so much. I've heard stories of people that have stopped taking $500 a month in supplements. So at that point, it doesn't become a lot of money. But sometimes it's a condition that you can't change or do anything about. So if you've got somebody that's totally broke, when they say that that's just something I can't afford or that's a lot of money, it's just that. It's their life reality at the moment. So it would require something to change for them to act, whether you just give them patches or whatever, but something has to change. There's nothing you can do about that. When we're talking about an objection, these are legitimate concerns, and we want to talk about some of the ways that we handle those. Now, the best way to handle an objection is to restate it, then point back to the truth, the science, the facts. And we'll look at a number of those today and how to best diffuse those.
That is good, and that's something that just comes from asking questions and asking the right questions, right? When we're talking to each other and we're communicating with each other, trying to get that clear and perfect communication is always difficult, right? I think we've all probably experienced at one point in our lives some sort of communication breakdown between, person to person. And sometimes it's from a friend, right? People don't, they maybe mistake your tone, or it's through a text message and people perceive it a different way. But asking questions kind of overcomes all that stuff. And some of that like difference when we talk about an objection and maybe a complaint or a stall, right? Is another term. This anytime I walk into a store, I know I'm normally looking for something because I know what it is. But when someone says, "Hey, can I help you?" I always say, "No, I'm fine, thanks." When really I'm kicking myself saying, "Rick, why didn't you just ask the man or the woman where this was? Why did you say, no, you're okay?" When I didn't know where it was, I was just kind of conditioned to just say, "No, I'm okay, thanks," until I felt comfortable enough and to move forward. But a lot of times, objections, like Pat said, we've got to get to the root of what the objection is, and see if it's really an objection and validate that it's an objection, and then that's how we can overcome it. So, last call, I believe it was on what day was that? Thursday, whichever day, and I'd asked a bunch of people to send some objections and stuff they'd got. I've got some of those. So Pat, I've got one for you that someone on the team has, and the objection was, I looked at the info a couple of times, not totally comfortable with the product. Sorry, but not interested at this time. Wish you the best, and thanks for keeping me in mind. How would you kind of handle that?
Sometimes it's just easy to get defensive, and it might just be the simplest thing that we, want to talk to somebody about, and we do that. We get defensive, and so we end up winning the battle, and we lose the war. And the reason is because we know we're right. Or, now this is what I would say to someone. I've found that there's basically a few reasons why people don't want to use the patches or work with me. Either they just don't have the money, they're plain ignorant, they don't care about helping people, or in some way, they just don't trust me or the patches. Now, I'm quite sure you can afford it, and you're definitely not ignorant, and I know how you care about people. So, what is it that you don't trust about it or with me? Now, what that's going to do is that's going to smoke out what the true objection is in many cases. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out what it is that makes them uncomfortable so that they don't want to make a decision and work with us. So if it's a person that you know well and you know that, certain thing is going to smoke out their real objection, then go for it. Now understand, I do a lot of stuff over the phone, not live and in person with people. So it gives me a whole lot more leeway. So I write scripts and I read them word for word. And I suggest that you do the same as often as possible. Actors and actresses get paid zillions of dollars and they use scripts. Why? Because scripts work, and I'm not face to face with someone, they have no idea that I'm reading it. And that's important. So you can get good at this too, and you can practice it, and you won't sound like you're reading it. So I know that helping them find their objection by eliminating what is not their objection works. It's not the money. It's not the ignorance. It's not that you don't care about people. What does that leave? That leaves us with maybe there's a trust area. And then they'll say what it is that they don't trust, or they'll just volunteer that information in general about how that works. So that's important.
That's real good stuff right there. It's getting to the root and really giving them direct. What Pat did is, I think he illustrated right there, asking the right direct question to get the answer, to get to the bottom of it. Sometimes you have to whittle away. And keep in mind, when we talk about objections, when we talk about stuff, it's not really, like I said, this is so far from a sales point of mind, but it's also just part of the psychology and just how we operate as people. Is, you're mostly friends with these people or acquaintances with people. It's not that they don't like you personally. It's something that they just need probably more information and time, or sometimes a combination of both, to a place to where they feel comfortable doing it. That leads me to the next one. And Pat, I'm going to read this objection, and I'm going to give my little brief summary to that. Is one of the objections, and one of the text messages that I got was, quote, "I have no interest in MLMs." So the way I would handle that, because I've heard that before, but the first thing I said, "Oh, okay, understood. You know what? I've never been in the MLM industry before. I've never done direct sales. I had the same viewpoint as you up until this point." And then you can turn around and ask them a question. What is it about MLMs that you don't like? They've obviously had some sort of a bad experience, or they were like me, and they had zero experience, but they'd heard from someone else or just formed their own opinion based off of, like mine. I just formed my own opinion. I don't know where I got it from or where I heard it from, but I just said, "Oh, that's not for me. I'm not interested." Without any bit of knowledge, without any bit of research, without just me shooting from the hip. No, not my thing. I'm not interested. But once I got educated, and basically Danny, when he kind of told me a little bit about it, when Danny McDaniel told me a little bit about it, it changed my perception. One, because it was Danny McDaniel, and I knew him and I trusted him and we had a great relationship. But when he explained it all, I couldn't find any reason that it didn't make sense to make the kind of income, to have the freedom and time, and to have such a great product that it's helping people's lives and their health and all the benefits of it. It just made total sense. But all that was not interested in MLMs, was just basically, let's find out why. Because most likely someone's been down the road, and there's a lot of companies out there, right? There's a lot of Me Too products. We talk about that. That is the great thing about the X39, the patch, is you don't have any competition when it comes to that. So get to the root of the issue of why. So Pat, you want to expand on that? That was my kind of...
There's a wealth of information out there for direct marketing and MLM, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube. I've been studying some of the people who I think are very much like gurus. They're very experienced in this kind of marketing. And they have the same experiences that we do when people say, I don't like MLM. It sounds like a pyramid. So now here's what I say. I understand, especially with what I've heard about, direct marketing or MLM companies. But what if it was different than what you thought? That question is so disarming. I've been using that with some people, and it's definitely opened the door for me with some of them. Say it slow. What if it's not what it seems? And then, like me, you find out that it's so different. What I found out is David Schmidt, the inventor of this technology, knew that there were going to be associations and whatever that were going to try and dominate and control, regulate. Big pharma would try and get involved, and this is the one way they could avoid that. He didn't want your status quo corporate structure. If people say to me, this is a pyramid scheme, I ask them to look at every business they've ever worked at, maybe even the one they're working with now. I simply ask, do you make more money than your boss? Do you make more money than the upper level managers? Or if it's a bigger company, the mid-level managers, or whoever that might be, your supervisor? And the answer, of course, is no. No, that's a true pyramid in every way. And actually, like what Brittany says, LifeWave is more like a hexagon the way it's laid out. And you can have someone that you sponsor today that make more money than you in the future. So you'll never have that with a job.
And in this little bit of time that we've been doing this, I can just about pinpoint some of the words we say carry a lot of weight, right? And they trigger certain responses. Anytime I've said this phrase, I've just about always got the same response. When I said, I want to bring you in and put you under here, or put you under me, or when you use that term, I'm going to put you under me, and then you're going to get someone under you. Whenever you use that type of speech, the very next question they're going to say, or what their comment normally is, oh, so this is like a pyramid scheme. And that is what people perceive, is they always perceive, hey, whoever got in at the top is making all the money and everyone underneath is just kind of chasing. So maybe change the wording from what I'm using now is, hey, I love for you to join our team. I want to run with you. Let's be on the same team. Or I want to bring you onto the team, somewhere along there. But when you start saying, I'm going to put this person under you, or we're going to do that, that's normally where people's brain goes. And so I try to stay away from just saying any of that very early on. The person, and Pat, I'm gonna lead on this one as well, and then if you give me another one too. That was, the person has sampled the patch but doesn't have any positive experience, not interested, right? Which that is common if we're sampling patches, right? The rule of thumb for the X39 is 1 month wear it 1 month for every decade you're alive. So if you're giving out patches, because and we're all guilty of it. I did it at first too. I said, oh, I have 3 patches. Here's 3 X39 patches, and wear it in the morning and take it off at night. But I basically, what I did is I gave them a patch and I set them up for failure because it didn't allow the patch to do its work, right? 3 days wearing the patch wasn't going to cut it. The other thing that I've seen a lot of when I ask some people, because just about everyone that has put on the patch has felt something, right? We've all had some sort of a testimony. We've all had a great experience. I mean, we couldn't have those testimony calls, or there couldn't be Facebook groups of testimonials for this patch if it didn't do what it does. Our bodies are healing themselves through the power of the X39. However, if you sample and you're sampling and they're only getting 2 or 3 days, it's not doing them service. The other question that I ask people a lot of times when they say, hey man, I wore it for a month and I didn't get anything, I always ask, how many days would you say you wore it in a week? Or for every 10 days, normally a week is easier. How many days would you miss out of the week that you did not put the patch on? When you say a week, the answer I normally get is 2, right? Or at 10 days, the answer I normally get is 3. So you cannot get this patch to work 100% effectively if you only wear it 70% of the time. That math just does not work. So when we're sampling, it's the same thing, even if it's not the X39. Sometimes Ice Wave, right? That's another one that I've heard some people say, "Oh yeah, I gave them some Ice Wave," and they're only using one patch, right? It's a two patch system, but and you've got to know how to use it. So it just and it's hey, it's just education, it's just learning. I didn't know any of these things until Britt showed me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But there are people out there, and we're going through and we're giving some of these patches out to people, but you got to allow it to do the time. So maybe circle back with that person and say, hey, I know you wore it, but I only gave you a week's worth. What I want you to do is please commit to 90 days. Commit to 90 days because whatever's going on in your body didn't happen over a week, right? It took a lot more time for this pain or this ailment, whatever it may be. We need to give your body time to adjust, right? Because we are wanting everything to be fixed right away, but you got to give it its due time.
With this, I tell people that it's pure science. 100%. The patents are there. You can read all 31 pages of the patent for the X39s if you would like. But the reality is how it works with each individual is more like an art form. Some people feel like they just took an energy drink instantly. Other people, it takes a little more time. But also, like my wife pointed out to me recently, a doctor gives us an antibiotic and tells us it's take for the full recommended time period, 7 days, 10 days, whatever that might look like. We're told that supplements and even some meds need to be taken for 90 days or more to see the desired results. This is huge. So why would we expect anything different for our bodies to heal themselves to be able to have the time that's needed in order to do so? So part of the science is that it gives an 8-year reversal of our cardiovascular system. This is science. This is proven and it's documented after wearing it for 6 months. So my wife and I said, hey, you know what? We're going to patch at least for 6 months because we definitely want that to happen to our heart cardiovascular system.
I would definitely recommend when someone start on the patch journey, right? And if you're signing, and once again, I'm going to say this again, because if you're signing somebody up and they're joining your team, you definitely should take that to heart and have the responsibility that you've got and do everything you can to make them successful. And you want to pray that they receive all the healing that they need through this patch. That's number one, right? You definitely want to do that. But I recommend them taking almost like a health checklist, right? Because sometimes some people need to write it down of all the little things that are wrong with them just so they can see it. And I know that's out there. But write that health checklist down so they can start to see what some of the gains are. Because there's a lot of people who say, oh, yeah, I was just hoping for it to fix my knee. And then when you start asking questions, they said, oh, well, yeah, by the way, yeah, my skin's looking better. My hair's looking better. There's other things that are going on that they just forgot that just so you can see how well they know their body and can measure what's going on in their body. But with anything, like I said, on sampling, you've got to give the patch its time to do the work. And if they give it, that rule of thumb, a month for every decade they've been alive. It's just the facts are the facts and the percentages are the percentages. And sometimes people just say, oh, nothing works on me. And I said, well, it worked on 98% of people in the case studies and the clinical studies. I mean, so 98%, you must be in that 2%, and you're guessing you're in the 2% before you ever put on the patch. If we were gambling and you had a 98% chance of winning, you'd probably take those odds, wouldn't you? Yes. So, Pat, I'm going to give you another one. And this one says, the patches are sold on Amazon. How would you handle that?
These people that are close to us are probably not going to go and take them off a shelf at Walmart or order them on Amazon or whatever. So even if there are people that do this, that sell these or whatever, they're probably just people maybe that got in and then they decided they weren't going to do anything with this, or they had patches that were used. And my other question I have is, why would they want to try and sell it that way? Because they're selling to total strangers, not helping the people they care about and love, and miss out on the business opportunity as well. So we don't approach this, number one, as a business, but we approach it to help people. I want to brag on Anthony, one of my brand reps. He is an expert at this. I mean, I think he probably patch a statue. We go to a restaurant or wherever, he's patching people everywhere he goes. And he's not doing it just because he wants to grow the business, but he's doing it because he really loves and cares about people and wants to see their lives changed. And then the business side of it becomes so much secondary. I didn't do that. I alienated a lot of people at first because I approached it from the standpoint of the business. Thank God those of you who are part of my team didn't run to the hills. I think it's really important. The main question being that you can get them on Amazon or whatever, but it takes the totally personal side out of it completely. And to me, that's a big deal. It really is.
You know, and the other thing is you've got to keep in mind, if you have these patches, right? And you were to keep, and you have a sleeve of them, right? How they come, and you keep those in your pocket, and you go about your day all day with those in your pocket. Guess what just happened to all those patches? They were all activated by your body heat, right?
Yeah.
So they're all good for that 16 hours, and that's it. So that whole sleeve that you get in the mail from Amazon may be all activated patches. You don't know, right? You know me, you trust me. I'm getting it straight from LifeWave directly to you. There's no middleman. When you're buying something on Amazon, there's a middleman. You have no idea how long those patches are going to sit in a warehouse or in a, you know, wherever they're going to be. You don't know where they're coming from and what you're going to get, because I think we've all bought stuff online and it's not been what it was represented. Amazon and eBay, I saw someone had a sleeve for like 199. I've seen them for 159. They're all over the place, right? And they're up and they're gone pretty quickly. So the main thing is if they think they want to buy it from patches, then buy it from Amazon, excuse me, then it's, hey, what about the business side of this, right? What about the side of this, and jump in and get a spot in the binary? That's the most important thing. You don't want to just wear the patch, because what's going to happen is, let's just, you know, say you get them from Amazon and say it's, you know, it's the real deal. But when you get your miracle, you're going to be starting from scratch, because you're going to want to tell people, and you're going to go back and say, oh, I bought them on Amazon. And that person you try to buy it from is no longer there on Amazon. It's already gone, right? It's a fly-by-night deal. So stick to ordering directly from LifeWave to the consumer.
And a heads up, if you're going to do what Anthony does and carry patches on you and share them with people out in public and whatever, you want to make sure that you have some kind of a special carrier that you can protect those patches with. And you want to make sure that you protect them, because they're gold.
So as we're talking about patching people, and Britt and I figured this out when we were at one of our son's football 7-on-7 tournament, when that was a turning point for us in this journey, is the power of Ice Wave. If you do anything in this business, get you some Ice Wave and learn how to use it. Learn that clock method, the 2-patch system, and how to patch somebody, because when you can go to someone and you Ice Wave them and that pain goes away instantaneously, they're sold, they're all in, right? And when we figured that out, Britt and I looked at each other and said, how did we not know about Ice Wave before? I mean, literally, we were standing there. One of the kids got hurt. His leg was, you know, and Britt went over and says, I'm going to try to Ice Wave this kid. And I was like, we got nothing to lose. Give it a shot. And she went over, and the kid, I mean, you can tell, and I've seen Britt do this plenty of times, when you Ice Wave someone and she's holding one patch here and she's moving around and she's going through the clock method and says, tell me when your pain is a 1 to 10, what is it now? And they'll say an 8. And she'll start and says, how is it now? And all of a sudden, you'll see their face light up before they can even tell you that it's a 1 or a 2. And you know that you've Ice Waved in the right spot. But once that happens, that person has got some healing instantly. They're automatically sold. And once we started doing that, that changed a lot for us. That got our foot in the door to sign up a lot of people. And then, of course, they got to put on the X39 and reap the benefit of that. Pat, I'm going to give you another one right here. Said, what if a few years down the road they say, oh, these patches aren't good for you, they're causing this or that?
I'd say that about all of the things that are on the market that doctors aren't trying everything. I'm on a blood thinner. Can you imagine the doctor taking a blood thinner just to test it? Yeah, that's not a good idea. Or, maybe taking insulin. A doctor take insulin to test insulin. They don't have a problem with their blood sugar. That would be terrible. So doctors don't try everything that's out there. There's no way. They have people that test it, and that's what we do with the patches as well. And there have been countless tests. So I've told people this, and really it's part of my passion. If I found out that wearing an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper on my back lowers my blood sugar, I'm doing it, right? I'm just not going to stop doing that. And I don't care what people think or whatever. I'll wear it in public. I'll tell everybody about it. So this patch is lowering my blood sugar. I don't fully understand why. And if there's any other thing that down the road they find out that whatever with it, hey, I've got a new life today and I'm enjoying it. So I think there's a whole lot of stuff out there that they don't know about, people are taking every day, and I think it's destroying them. I think it's dangerous. And I know, being in my field in the health insurance industry, I heard about a guy taking 21 meds and his doc took him off all except for one blood pressure medicine. Well, he literally went from almost dying to going on a cruise because he had his life back.
Yeah, no, that's a true life kind of testimony and explanation. The first thing that jumped off when I read that, and I was like, hang on. So, knee jerk would be like, hang on, what? But exactly. So the way I would handle that is once again, acknowledge the fact that you heard them. I appreciate that. I can understand why you'd have some concerns. There have been some medicines that have been recalled or had some negative side effects that we found out, in years later, right? You see those commercials that come on daytime TV all the time. Those, right? That's why that exists. So you're going to acknowledge the concern, but the easiest thing is, I understand your concern from that. That's the best thing about this. We're not introducing any drugs, any chemicals. There is nothing going into your body. It is phototherapy. Your body is taking care of itself. That's the best thing about this. This is coming from you, and within you, there's nothing going into you, right? Non-dermal, non-transfer. I mean, that's the best thing right there. So you can have zero concern that anything is going to change, because that goes along. There was another objection that says, well, I have allergies. Okay, well, unless they're talking about on the skin level, I've very seldomly, I've heard maybe 2 times of people that just, I guess, just having a sticker on their skin gives them some sort of a reaction right there at the point. That's very, 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 very minimal. Like I said, 2 people out of the thousands that I've seen, and I don't know whoever these 2 people are, but I mean, it just looked like a little irritation. But they would probably have a serious allergy to like wearing like a latex glove or something similar. So that person who probably had that allergy probably has a very sensitive allergy to, like I said, latex glove or to certain touch on the skin that they would have probably already known about before they put that on in that situation.
Yeah, the Band-Aid, I've heard of that. I've heard of some people, very, very few, that would be allergic to, Band-Aids, different things like that. They could be allergic to the adhesive part, but there's ways around that as well. Again, every time, like what Rick is saying, you take and you turn the objection back to the truth, back to the science. The truth is nothing goes into the body. So there's no reason anyone should ever have somebody come back to them or doctors or science and say, you know what, this wasn't good, this hurt people, it had side effects or whatever, because nothing's going into the body. It's what they call non-invasive, right? And when you tell people that, just use the example of a nicotine patch or a birth control patch or any other kind of patch that actually emits something into the body, because this is totally sealed and nothing does enter the body. There's people that make up their minds before they talk to someone, and they have an objection that person doesn't even have. So Rick and I have had this conversation a lot, and that, don't bring up objections that people haven't brought up themselves. Another thing that's really important is when you approach someone, don't approach them with your mindset. You might think, you know what? Everybody thinks like I do. For example, when you have the mindset that nobody can afford it, then when you go to talk to them, you're thinking, yeah, they're not going to be able to afford it. Or if your mindset that it's too expensive, or they might have some health issues that they have that happen with this, or there's something that's not proven yet, or whatever that might be, you're going to project that on that person. So I recommend you sit down, take a piece of paper, write down the things that you know are mindsets of yours that may not be of the people that are around you. And make sure that when you go to talk to someone that you can pull that out of your mind. So again, the most dangerous complaint or objection are the ones that are in our own minds. So you want to learn and grow and be honest with yourself and write these things down and deal with these objections that are already in your mind and make sure that you don't project those on people. Some of the other ones that we do this with are, man, there's no way anybody's going to go premium, or there's no way anybody's just going to do anything more than just become a brand partner and buy a sleeve, because of the economy. Well, you don't know if you're talking to a wealthy person. You don't know if you're talking to a person who really, really cares about people in their life and just wants to help people and will do pretty much anything to be able to try and do that. So what we need to know in these situations is stop creating objections before they even happen. And again, that's the hardest one to overcome.
That is very true. I'm going to give another one, and this was something, I couldn't really tell over text how confrontational the objection was, meaning the company is targeting old people and getting them to then reach out to their loved ones to sell the product. So that being said, that's a little different one. That would be if you know this person personally and that's how they've interacted with you, I would just say, hey, my man, I'm definitely not targeting you. I'm just talking to you, telling you my experience, my testimony, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. However, and this is just depending on the age of the person I'm talking to, the older we get, our stem cells go dormant, right? What is it, half by 30, and only 2% are active by the age of 60. So the people that are seeing a lot of the huge results are over the age of 40. It's just going to be if we went around, it's not so much anyone's being targeted. It's just the demo of where you are in pain. I mean, I'd love to feel like how I felt when I was 20 years old. Yeah, I could do a lot of things then that I cannot do now. And right, I could bounce back differently. So that is true. And so basically what they're saying is almost a true statement. Targeting is kind of the negative connotation in the whole objection. But basically is say, hey, that is kind of the demographic of where the benefit is coming from. Right. So that's something just to kind of bring that up. But I thought that was a little different.
With this one, I would say I'm likely talking to a younger person at that point. And so this is what I would say. Well, let's think of it from two different standpoints. As a younger person, you have the opportunity to help a lot of people. And let's say they're older, okay? You wouldn't have any opposition to helping people, right? I mean, you're that kind of person. You have a big heart. And the other thing is, that as a young person, do you have any reason that you wouldn't want to have a side income? And for it maybe even become a career as young as you are? I think that's huge. I know a 24-year-old with a full ride Division I basketball scholarship, and he's making $15,000 a month. That's not a bad gig. Again, you can see what we're doing. We're not trying to deflect their question or their objection. We agree with them and show our concern for them and understand and put ourselves in their shoes, that we ultimately then are putting it back on the scientific fact, financial fact, that we like to help people to become healthy and also to help them become healthy in their finances. So let me ask you a question. Would you be opposed to helping people with their health and you making some extra money? course not.
I mean, and yeah, I think you nailed it right there. You've just got to go back to, hey, I want to see you healthy financially and as a person, and that's it. Didn't mean for it to be, don't want you to feel targeted, but that is, I just brought it to you because I love you and I care about you. A very common one, and it's I want to wait and see what it does for you. Meaning, so you're asking someone, hey, I want you to join on. They say, well, I want to see what's going on with you, and or they're waiting to see what happens in for another person. So basically, what they're doing is, okay, I get it. I want to see what happens for you in the next 90 days, and then maybe I'll consider signing up. Or I know Johnny down the road, he just started on it. I want to see what happens and how he feels, and then I'll consider it. So that does come up quite a bit. I would tell people, say, hey, everyone's going to be different. We're all going to have our own different experience. You can point back to the science and let them know percentages. And once again, visit your own testimony. This is where I'm at. This is why I'm telling you about it. Because if you're doing this and you don't have any sort of positive experience, you probably wouldn't be doing it, right? Because a lot of people say, well, I want to see, before I do the business, I want to see what happens. And because I don't want to tell someone about it if I don't have any, testimony or any positive results, which I think we can all understand and respect that point of view, right? But I think we're all on this phone call and we're all doing this business because we've had some sort of positive result and we're able to do that and say, and I'm sure you're going to get yours too. It's just a matter of what it's going to be. So, and I always say, hey, it needs to be about you. This is just what I felt. So if you're waiting to see what Johnny down the road, how he feels, that still has nothing to do with you. He can feel bad, terrible. You don't know what he's doing. What we've got to do is focus on you, right? We're not going to play that game where you're just going to wait to see what everyone else does because they teach you when you're like kindergarten. If Billy jumps off the bridge, are you going to too? Right? That's one of those deals. We got to focus on yourself and your needs. What do you need health wise? What do you need financial wise? And how can I assist you to get there? Because I tell you this, once you put on the patch, you're going to feel the miracle. You're going to feel great. And then I'm going to be here partnering, locking arms with you, and we'll do this side by side to help grow your business. That's kind of how I handle that. That.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add with that is that I tell people that I didn't have any idea what was going to happen. I decided this was something I wanted to tell the world about because my doctor was the one who told me about it. And if I trust someone, I'm all in. I'm kind of the ready, fire, aim guy rather than ready, aim, fire. If I trust people and I feel like what I'm doing is something I can become passionate about. And Danny in one of our meetings said something I'll never forget. He said, when I can find a product, a technology that was patented and real and true science and change lives, then I could get excited and go tell the world. And that's really what I look at this as. I do the same thing. I've told people on my team, just Pat Davis, who I'm working with, his doctor's the one that started him with this. These are the testimonies, and I go in that direction with it, and I start telling testimonies. Tell people that. Use my name. Use Dr. Duggar's name. He wants us to. We want to get the word out there that we do believe in what we're doing. So some of the people you're going to talk to are like, yeah, some of the people are like that and some aren't. Some of them need to really study and they need a lot more information and whatever. I'm pretty careful that I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince people that this is something that's a good thing. I even have a text that, hey, you think a lot deeper on this stuff than I do, and I appreciate it. The world needs every type of mindset, and we're just different. When I trust somebody 100%, I just run with it. That's just me. Some of the people that you talk to are going to be like that, and others aren't, and that's okay. So when you're talking to people and using my name or whatever, you can say, hey, he's got people that said, yeah, we're going to see how it works for you and what happens with the patches, what happens with your business. And then, we'll catch back up. And, now he's got over 300 people in his group, and that's what you're telling them. We're talking about me, of course. And that's a big deal. And so they're not part of it yet, so they miss out on that. And Brittany's a master with this. she'll say, hey, there's going to be an event this weekend. There's going to be 100 people there, and these people are all going to be a part of our team. We want you to, be in on this and being on the front end and not later on. So however you want to handle that. But
Pat, is there anything else you want to cover?
one thing that you said, Rick, when we were in Cersei really stuck with me, and that is that maybe someone doesn't want to work the business, but they could be what we call an ally or an advocate. So I just been sharing this with other people. I have a guy that treats my home for pests, and when he was here at our house, I talked to him about the business, and he had just started a business with his brother outside of his work. So nothing really transpired there, but I went back to him and I apologized for sharing the business with him when he really does need the patches for himself and for his wife. So the next time I saw him, when he came over, I talked to him from that standpoint of being an advocate or being an ally. I really would like for him to experience this for himself, and we pulled the business aside. And then I told him what you do, Rick, about being an ally. And I understand that maybe you don't want to work the business, but I'm looking for people that will be like an ally or an advocate, or just go and get the word out about me. And then I hand them a stack of business cards. You can give them some 3x5 cards or whatever and have them put their name on it. And then, call you, that type of thing. Person who's a heat and air person, realtor, bug man, whatever they might be, just ask them to be an advocate for your patching.
People can become an ally just because they don't want to join. Like I said, it's not always a no, a firm no, but sometimes it's just a not right now, or sometimes, like we just talked about, they're not interested in doing the business. Well, great, but you still like me and you still care about me, right? And you want to see me successful? Yeah, I do, Rick. Okay, well, if you know of anybody, you see just one person in pain, can you have them call me? Can I talk to him? Can you just be an advocate for me? Because you know my heart, and this is what I want to see. And if it's not for you right now, then please just send them my way. Right? We ask for referrals all the time in any sort of business, but even not in the business setting, as friends. Start talking about a car, they say, "Oh, I know a guy." Right? And there might not be a referral. There's no monetary reward for sending somebody, but if someone's taking care of someone, you care about them, you want to see them succeed, you're just going to let them know as a friend. So that's something to still always leverage when you're talking about to people. Have them be an advocate and ally for you. You've all got my phone number. You've got Pat's phone number. If you don't, well, I'll say it again. Phone number 505-480-9643. Send me a text, get us on the phone. Use everybody on our team. We are a team. Get Britt on the phone, get Pat on the phone, get Josh on the phone, get anyone on the phone, but let's all be there for each other. I hope everyone has a great day. It was great getting to see some people and spend some time with you.
Yeah. Let me throw my number, Rick.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, 501-605-6935.
Good deal. Well, I hope everyone has a blessed day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Pat, thank you so much. I think you're excellent. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate all of you.